And bring me some tea.
I couldn't put the thermostat on because you were talking.
Okay, you're talking about the microwave, but you can put it on. Hello, everyone.
Sorry.
This is hi. I think I'm okay. I think I'm back now. I've been having some minor glitches in technology here. Please let me know if everybody can hear me, if everything is all right. I've been having some cable problems here. That's what the problem is. Uh, but I think everything's all right now. My indicator says that everything is all right now. So let us get started. The topic for tonight is reassembling the scattered majority to defend democracy. And there is Steve saying, hello, everybody. Steve Wolfbrand. Great to see you, Wolfbrand. Thank you for coming. I'm going to start off with a piece from Common Dreams. The name of it is Reassembling the Scattered Majority to Defend Democracy. That's where the title of this stream comes from. It's by Robert Ivy. Tagline is Reconstituting Democratic Community requires an affirmative alternative to demagogic recidivism that advances an ethos of equality, diversity, inclusion, fairness, tolerance, commonweal, liberty, rights, lawfulness, nonviolence, and also deliberation. This was done for Common Dreams on February 26, 2024 by Robert Ivy. And he starts off. Donald Trump's authoritarian MAGA movement is an existential threat to American democracy, unquote, writes Salon's Chauncey DeVega. That is not news, but it is an important reminder as we enter a general election year. The dark force of Trump's demagoguery, his dictatorial aspirations, his dishonesty, and his incendiary proclivities are notorious. This is not to say that Biden doesn't have similar proclivities. On the other hand, I don't want to build a false equivalence between the two. When one talks about dishonesty and incendiary proclivities, Biden is also no slouch. His political base for ruling the Democratic Party, what De Vega calls his quote, for ruling the Republican Party, what De Vega calls his quote, diehard followers, unquote, consists largely of ultra conservative white Christians. His rallying cry is tailored to their sense of divine favor, fear of displacement, and vision of apocalyptic salvation. All of this is well known by now, but perhaps not sufficiently assessed for its repercussions. Trump's harangue to his diehard followers is more than just an angry lament. It is a recipe for violence that typifies his authoritarian cant and culminates in the destruction of democratic institutions. I think that last was a true statement. Trump's apocalyptic diatribe symbolizes his broader refrain of grievance, vengeance, and call to recover a glorified past. It gestures back specifically to a white America blessed by God, but, quote, to make America great again, unquote, speaks plainly and poignantly to others who fear being left behind and unredeemed. It projects a dark determination to destroy an unholy adversary that would displace divinely entitled white Christians. An image that expresses vividly the angst of a wider segment of politically disaffected citizens. Excuse me. It is a spellbinding, hermetic discourse of restoration that mutates into a malignant formation for rejecting democratic values and thwarting reasoned deliberation. To contest its backward slant on its own political, religious terms of restoration is hopeless, even counterproductive. Recognizing its directionality, however, suggests the value of a forward-leaning alternative. The symbolic force of redeeming a conservative white Christian nation paralyzes democratic community, strengthens a minority grip on politics, and scatters the majority. Not all white citizens fear displacement by increasingly diverse polity. Not all Christians are evangelical or fundamentalist. Not all conservatives are retrogressive. Not all citizens are Christian nationalists or among the 1/3 that believes God intended the U.S. to be a promised land to white Christians of European descent. The symbol is a consequential misnomer of loss and recovery. Somehow the scattered majority that thinks otherwise must be reassembled. That, of course, is the point of the article, that people who are reasonable and who are rational and who see reality are scattered and are powerless against the MAGA forces, and that this scattered majority that thinks otherwise must be reassembled. I'm reminded here of Nixon's appeal for the silent majority to get active and take over the country. Okay, the Nixon and Agnew appeal to the silent majority. Here we have an appeal to the scattered majority that is no longer coherent. In both cases, I'm not sure the scattered are a majority, as I was not sure that the silent were actually a majority. Reconstituting democratic community, but I like the idea of doing that, requires an affirmative alternative to demagogic recidivism and affirming greater than a rejectionist disposition that advances an ethos of equality, diversity, inclusion, fairness, tolerance, commonweal, also liberty, rights, lawfulness, nonviolence, and deliberation. These are the positive ingredients of American democracy, the standards of an aspirational polity. They provide a measure, of progress toward or regression from an ideal of collective self-governance under conditions of pluralism and for the common good. To promote democracy is more promising than denouncing fascistic populism. Resistance to authoritarianism is best carried out in democratic terms. Otherwise, it feeds the cycle of intolerance on which demagogic authoritarianism thrives and leaves the majority without a unifying bond. The positive alternative of affirming democracy engages a three-dimensional discourse of bolstering, exercising, and adhering to its multifaceted ethos. Bolstering reinforces democratic values by clarifying their meaning, identifying their political legacy, illustrating their benefits, and otherwise conveying their importance and the significance of their absence. Exercising democratic values involves basing deliberative arguments on them, drawing on their perceived relevance and positive valence to warrant claims for or against a given practice and proposed policy. Adhering to democratic values means acting in accordance with them, guided by principles of equity, inclusion, rights, and lawfulness. For example, each of these three dimensions reinforces the other. Together, they develop democratic culture and establish a bond of shared governance. They are basic parameters of democratic discourse, that is to say, equity, inclusion, rights and lawfulness, that is, rights and lawfulness being one of the dimensions, and equity, inclusion being the other two. They are basic parameters of democratic discourse, whether citizens are oriented conservatively or liberally. Not everyone respects these parameters, but enough must to secure a working democracy. I think that's true as long as people understand what other people mean by equity and inclusion and by rights, and lawfulness. Liz Cheney's memoir and warning, Oath and Honor, which was published by Little Brown and Company in 2023, is a compelling account of what goes wrong when democratic discourse is abandoned, democratic culture is violated, and democratic governance is breached. On January 26, 2021, the U.S. nearly lost its democratic institutions to authoritarian rule when a president who refused to acknowledge he had lost his bid for re-election provoked an insurrection, aided and abetted by members of his political party, motivated by personal ambition, disciplined by fear of reprisals. Cheney stood among the small number of congressional Republicans who resisted the onslaught, honored their oath to defend the Constitution, fought to secure the legal transfer of power, and voted with the Democrats to impeach the recalcitrant president and aspiring autocrat. She served as vice chair and one of the only two Republicans on the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Her own party punished her by stripping her from her third-ranking position in the House Republican leadership and successfully targeting her for a re-election defeat in 2022. And they voted in the Senate against convicting the impeached Trump on the sole charge of incitement of insurrection. The threat posed by the demagoguery of Trump remains, quote, "I can tell you from my time working to support democracy overseas," unquote. Cheney warns, quote again, that the power to rally a mob must never be underestimated. A person with that kind of power to intimidate and threaten and motivate others to carry out violent acts does not just slowly fade into the background. He must be defeated, unquote. Cheney's account, written from the perspective of a Reagan conservative, well, I might even say from the standpoint of a Cheney conservative, not a MAGA authoritarian, maybe another kind of authoritarian though, puts the fragility of democracy on display. It underscores the continuing threat to democratic governance and an immediate need to mend the fabric of political culture. A majority that would not abide the raw power of authoritarian rule cannot assemble itself except through democratic discourse. It must speak, think, and act in terms of bolstering, exercising, and adhering to democratic values, of dissenting, debating, and deliberating productively, and of voting accordingly to ensure against the loss of a democratic republic. So this article seems to be nothing but an attack on Trump, and nothing but a vague call to people to come together to vote against him again. But I think that the problem of putting people together to save democracy is about a lot more than simply defeating Donald Trump and re-electing some democratic alternative. I think it's about starting a movement among people to disempower the role of money in politics. It's about, in other words, dumping the corruption, because we can't really have a democratic system unless we dump the corruption so the donors are not running the country. We need to have the Congress people beholden to donors and to the rich. We need to have them defended en masse in 2024 and replaced by people who are not beholden to the big money. Cheney herself would not be one of those. She would be beholden to the big money. Certainly Biden is beholden to the big money. Certainly Dean Phillips, who is running for the president himself, is making use of his own big money and that of his friends to begin his presidential campaign. Also, Bobby amounts of big money. He's using the excuse that you can't take a knife to a gun battle Well, he certainly isn't taking a knife to a gun battle. He's taking already something like $53 million, most of it raised from the very rich, to the particular battle he is in. And he seems intent on raising as much of that big money as he can, in order to fund his campaign for the presidency. He's been getting more and more popular. The polls are closing in his favor, but make no mistake, he is building up huge debts to donors who are funding his super PAC and funding his campaign, as well. So the threat posed by the demagoguery of Trump still remains. It is certainly there. But there are other people running as Democrats, running, as independents, who are refusing to give up, the big money. We need a movement to see that they too are defeated. We need a movement to see that both Trump and Biden are defeated. We need a movement to see that anyone beholden to big money is defeated in 2024 in favor of a Congress full of people who don't have big money, who've been thriving on small donations, and who don't know anything to the special interests. That's what we need to have. And that's what, as of now, we're not getting. So we have to move very, very strongly to get it. Excuse me a second. While I share this stream. So finally, I want to say that in order to reassemble people to back what we call our democracy, what we need to do is to build a bottom-up movement. And that bottom-up movement has to be about getting rid of big money in politics. So donor interests will have no place. So the ear of our congresspeople, the ear of our senators, will be listening for what the people want, not listening for what the donors want. We've got to have that. There's no other alternative. If we aren't able to do it, then we won't be able to end this dark time in politics, and we will lose our democracy. And we have some comments. Andy Candy says, another quickie, Joe, it did go silent when you fiddled with your wire. Yes, it did. Yeah, I'm directly connected to the internet. I'm not going through a local area network. So if my wire slips out, it causes a glitch. But my internet has been solid. Andy says, hi, Steve. Steve says, hi, Andy. Andy says, Salon has been going hard on Trump these past 2 days. Yeah, I think people are getting very worried because the more unpopular Joe Biden gets, the more likely it is that people in desperation uh, will turn to Trump. Steve Wolfbrand said, if you put a gun to my head, I would take Trump over Biden, but they both suck. If Trump picks Tulsi as a VP, I'm in. Steve, you shouldn't be in for that. It's not about whether he picks Tulsi, okay, or somebody very good, because he's going to run his place and he's going to try to put together the dictatorship that he threatened. Tulsi will not have the power to stop him. So you can't take Trump. You're right. They do both suck. On the positive side, the alternative we really have, who would get back a very good programs for all of us, is Jill Stein. Her problem is she doesn't run an inspired campaign. She doesn't run, okay, an angry campaign. And we need an angry campaign right now. We need someone who's calling out the toxic money, who's calling the corruption out, who's calling for the dismissal of the whole Congress, who's calling for the retirement of all of the representatives who are beholden to big money. Because that's the only way we can get rid of the big money, okay, in politics. And he says, I like this writer. Lana Dell says, I like this writer too, which is why I presented this. But I also think that he's a little too abstract, okay, for my taste. He really needs to talk about the things we need to do to reassemble, the scattered majorities, he puts it. Of course we have to talk. Of course we have to deliberate. Of course we have to communicate. But also what we need to do is to build a movement with force, with strength, with anger, with toughness, with inspiration. We need to do all of that. I can't tell you how much today I wish that I was 20 years younger. I wish I could throw my hat into the ring, as poor, okay, as I am. Because I think the temperament of somebody like me is needed in this election. Someone with that temperament, someone who would run a strictly bottom-up campaign. Lana says, I agree the establishment has been anything but democratic. Look how they act to Dean Phillips. Of course. Lana says, I can't see Andy's comments. I don't know why. Andy is on YouTube, Lana, along with you. I certainly plug hashtag DTC on Newsbreak. Maybe that's why your Twitter followers picked it up. Fingers crossed. Andy says, I get a lot of likes when I mentioned, okay, the solution. Lana says, Steve is in California, so it doesn't matter who he votes for, just like New York and New Jersey. That is true, but still, it matters to me who he votes for. Doc, what about robots, AI affecting our economy? Well, that's not the subject for this stream, and I have to end this stream, and I have to do it right now. Andy says, got to take something for my tooth. Be back later. Steve says, hi, Wolfman. RFKJ was talking about the corruption, but not sure where he is right now on anything. He's still talking, okay, about the corruption. But of course, he thinks the others are corrupt, that Trump is corrupt and Biden is corrupt. He doesn't think he's corrupt, in spite of the fact that he's taken $20 million from Timothy Mellon. And he also has other contributions that are very large, that are in, okay, the millions, okay, of dollars. Lana says, how are you, Steve? Steve says, I'm okay, my love. Hope you're well. Lana says, not bad. It's been a strange week. Seemed like it's been a very, very tough week for you, Lana. Not just a strange week. I understand someone close in your family died. And of course, you had someone threaten you with a firearm as well. And Lana says, I wish you would run too, Joe. I don't think an 85-year-old can make it, not in this environment. Dirk Entz will be on Steve Keen tomorrow noon Eastern, just for your information. Okay, thank you, Lana. Lana says someone threatened to shoot me. Yes, I saw that. And my cousin died in Florida. Yeah, I saw that too. Yes, all of that. That's awful, Lana. Just awful. Steve says these are strange times. These are dark times, folks. Dark times. We have to fight our way out of them. Okay, I have to go. I'm late for my 8:30 stream. Thank you very much. Stay right here. I'll be